Alright, this video is an update on my Eurorack journey. You released Eurorack One earlier this year, and so this video will be Eurorack 2. There's been quite a bit of progress. The basic layout has remained the same. You can see the Malevolent here was just being covered up by various instructions, which I'll tell you about later. My two Behringer synths that I really like, and the Neutron is just brilliant. I really like the Neutron. I would use it more, but it's I'm better at programming and stuff when I've got a keyboard on the front of the machine. I know it sounds a bit silly, but that's I play it over. If I play it over MIDI, the keyboard, the master keyboard, is actually behind me in about 2 meters, 6 feet away to the left from where I'm holding the camera here, so it's not easy to twiddle it and play it at the same time. It's alright if you run in a sequence, because I can do that via the BeatStep Pro there, which those instructions are printed off because I've forgotten how to use it. It's been like 2 or 3 years since I've last used the BeatStep Pro with any consistency. So I need to relearn to use it because I'm very much trying to get this up and running as a full Eurorack based studio. And on Eurorack One, this rack was my original thing, because my intention was, where this bookcase is, and this is an old bookcase, was that I would replace it with a 19-inch rack, because I've always loved 19-inch rack gear. I think it's a brilliant combination of space, control, management, and simplicity in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of stuff out there because it's been such a consistent standard for so long, which is something the computer world needs to learn from. Is about, if you have standards, people can work to them and things work together. It's lovely. But hey ho, won't get me started on the computer industry. It's like so many things in life, there's pluses and minuses. Anyway, so I was in this rack, so I don't get distracted. What I actually did was I measured the width of this bookcase and found out what size rack would fit in there. And this goes back to my argument about Behringer, and I can't say I'm as happy about this one as I am about most of the stuff they clone. But this is basically the Mantis tip-top case. It's not exactly the same because I thought this is how they must get around copyright and everything. But it's the only case I could find was when I actually bought this was this Behringer Go case, and it fits absolutely perfectly, as you can see, beautifully in there. And then the idea is I'll just reuse that rack as and when this rack gets full. But it is pretty much a clone of the Mantis Tipcot case. But I would not have built a Mantis Tipcot case because it's just way too expensive. It's literally 3 times the price of what I paid for this Behringer Go case. I do understand the economies of scale and everything else, but I just don't have that sort of money available. And as I said in my Eurorack One, if Eurorack was that expensive, I would not have started my journey. For those of you who have watched Eurorack One, you'll know I've gained quite a few modules, having said about budget, really, and just mentioning budget. So yes, I gained a Behringer sequencer module, and this I'm very pleased with. It's a clone of some old analog one. I've completely slipped my mind what it is now. Probably Moog or one of those, one of the original guys. But it's basically got three channels of 8 steps, and it's got an internal clock, or you can use the external clock. And actually they'll work together as well, which is quite fun. You can get some strange, weird polyrhythms going on. I've got better at programming my Victor oscillator. That space there is awaiting a filter, about more and on. The steps module, Behringer, again, is a clone of the Mutable Instruments stages, I think it is. But multiple instruments, and all hats off to them. Don't mind if people clone them. There's clones by all sorts of people of all sorts of mutable instrument things. So you can't moan about that one. The next two, and this is again what I argue about with people, about Behringer. I would have not started my Eurorack journey if it hadn't been for Behringer because of the prices. But here I have two Guru Gara synths. I'll put a link in the description. He does make ready-built modules, but one of the things I decided I wanted to do after the last video, I think I mentioned it, was I really fancied the idea of making some kits. And the first thing I really needed was an attenuverter. And there wasn't actually that. I was surprised how few attenuverters there were in Eurorack, and I didn't want a big one. And then I found this kit, and it's just the perfect answer to me. So basically, just in case you don't know, an attenuverter is you've got an attenuator, so that's something that controls the level of whether it's your CV or your audio. But attenuverter also has an inverter, so you can go both ways. And I love the way this is designed, so I'm going to switch hands. So that knob there, if you turn it to the anti-clockwise all the way to the left, it's maximum negative of whatever you're inputting on the top socket, and all the way to the right is maximum positive of whatever you're pumping in the top socket, and then wherever you send it out to. With the top one of the two, because there's actually two attenuverters in this, there's the knob for the bottom one, and wherever you send this to, what was I trying to say? So there's two separate attenuverters, and if you don't use the sockets, if you don't put anything in the input socket of the bottom one, all three sockets are controlled. It'll take the input signal, and you also get and if you don't plug anything at the top, you've got a plus 5 volt signal coming out of there, so that's rather good. And because that build went well, I had a little problem, but I've forgotten your name, but the chap from Guru Gara Synths helped me, and it was sorted very quickly. And I was so chuffed with the finished result and everything, I decided to take the plunge and bought the Matrix mixer. This is completely out of kilter for what I need right now, but it was a kit I really fancied building. And I love my Matrix mixer on my AE modular, so I decided to take the plunge. And it's naughty, really. I had a bit of spare money and thought, right, and went for it. And very successful build, worked first time, no problems, very pleased, and love it to bits. So we get on to my third kit, and this is from N8 Synths. It's London based, strangely enough in North London area 8, N8 postcode. So N8 Synths, and this is a live, I'm trying to remember what the opposite word is. It's not passive multiple, it's a live multiple, I'm going to call it. So again, whatever you put in the top one can be all of them, or you've got two separate, all the output sockets, or if you've got two separate ones. If you use the bottom input socket, you've got two separate ones. But there are times it's actually useful for me to have 6 of the same signal, so yeah, I might do that. So at the moment, I've got it's actually the trigger. So this is the trigger from my RS9 drum sequencer. It's a trigger sequencer, and then one's going to the sequencer and one's going to the steps module. And then my latest purchase, basically because I got a special offer thing from Amazon, to be brutally honest, is the Behringer Abacus, and it's a clone of the Make Noise Maths. And again, this is another thing, I would not have spent £255 on a module, however flush I was feeling. And this module cost me 30, I think it was. It might have been 35 because of the promotion I got from Amazon. So, it's just mental, really. I don't know if Make Noiser has got the same philosophy of Mutable, but the Behringer are not the only clone of the maths modules, I assume they are. Sorry for the shake there. Yes, but that is literally just arrived in the last few days, and I've printed off the 20 pages of instructions for the maths module, because the biggest thing I have against Behringer is their manuals and stuff. Their websites are shite, and it's really hard to find instructions. So with the clones, I just go to the originals and print off their information. Excuse me. Anyway, enough of me waffling on about that sort of thing. Let's give you some noise to listen to. I do actually hope to use that sequence, etc., somehow in a song. That's what I'm working it up towards, and I hope you could hear at the beginning when I first brought the bass, for want of a better word, in, that it was a much more static sound. And then what I did was I brought in the x-axis modulation via the attenuverter, and then I added the Y. The x-axis one modulation was actually a quicker moving LFO, and the y-axis was a slower LFO. And the Y one was fairly subtle, but the X one was, I think you could really tell, and hopefully that comes over in the video. I hope that the little bit of fiddling I did with the steps was partly to show people what it does. It's quite an interesting machine, I think is the nicest way of putting it. It wasn't quite what I expected. I expected Mutable Instruments to be something different, and it is. One of the unexpected things is, which it didn't actually do anything on the in the music, but if you hold a button down for 5 seconds, it's now flashing. That's actually an LFO, and it's controlled by the knob. So I always can remember which one's controlling which, because you've actually got the little black knobs, which are much impossible to see, and you certainly can't. I can't, without my glasses on, look to see what position the knob's at. But then, as you should do with music, you do it by ear rather than visuals. And then you've got the sliders as well. I do love the sliders. I do like modules with sliders. The next kit I plan to do after the one that's coming, which I'm just about to tell you about, is I think it's called the Tesseract 8 from Thonk in London. And well, that's who sells it. They're not the manufacturer. And that's gives you 8. It's actually a 10-uverter with 8 sliders, and I'm quite excited about that. But that's the next project after the one that's coming. I said this was from N8 Synths, this multiple, because I was so pleased with the instructions and the kit and everything. No problem at all. Piece of piss to do. I've actually ordered a filter. I didn't intend for any in the audio path to be kits I made, because the matrix mixer is very much intended to be, a modulation matrix. I'll probably not quite hardwire, but I'll put 4 inputs down this side, and then the 4 outputs can go off to wherever. But I was so pleased with how this kit worked and how good the instructions were. I've bought the variable state filter kit from N8 Synths. It was only another £20 to have it built, actually, but also I was slightly tempted, but I actually am enjoying doing some electronics again. And that space should be the right size for it. If it isn't, I've used Nurleys, so these are all easy enough to slide along. So Nurleys are just screws you can do by hand, basically. I'll take one out. So, if you haven't got Nurleys and you like messing with your Eurorack, moving modules around, buy them. I actually bought them because I was faffing around trying to, and I lost some of the screws. One of the modules I bought came with no screws. I think it was one of the Behringer ones. I'm fairly sure it almost has to have been because of the quantity. It certainly wasn't the Guru Gara or N8s then, so it has to have been basically. And so I just decided to buy some Nurleys from Signal Sounds in Glasgow, which is where this module came from, which is my drum sounds module. And then once the filter module, like I say, once I've built it and everything's okay, I'll go in there and I can just start being a bit more versatile. And actually, though I intend to use this sound pretty much as it is, and feed it into. I want to bring the clock over from my MPC to control this, and then do some music over the top, and it may just even be just like a hardware jam almost, quite possibly, rather than how I normally compose. But we'll see where we go, because I didn't really expect when I started my Eurorack journey a few months ago that I'd be building kits so successfully and happily and really enjoying the process. So I hope you found that interesting. The next update on my modules, or my Eurorack I should say, sorry, it's hard to say. Because a lot's happened, it was worth doing this one fairly soon after Eurorack 2. So I hope you thought it was interesting, and thank you for watching.